Hey all, welcome to week 7. Our semester is officially at the halfway point. So we've made it this far. We are heading into the final leg of our iSearch projects. What I want to do in this week's intro video is, first of all, I want to talk to you about how things build on each other this week. Now, there are some really tightly constructed assignments this week. They build on each other in some really important ways I'm going to talk to you about in a second. The second thing I want to talk to you about is some key things to include in your iSearch paper. And last but not least, I do want to talk about how we're going to handle shitty first draft conferences next week. So first, let's take a look at our weekly schedule, and I'll talk to you about how things build on each other this week. Okay, so here we are in our Blackboard shell. I'm going to head over to course materials, open up project 2, and head into week 7 activity folder. So this week we're continuing our inquiry process for the iSearch project, and you guys are working on finding and evaluating and writing up at least one scholarly source to start things off, and then we're going to think about putting a bunch of things together for your iSearch shitty first draft. More on that in a second. But for this week's assignments, to watch, we have the instructor video, which you're watching right now. There is our part 2 of our research strategies mini lessons. This one really focuses in on MLA citation style. And of course, a little vid. To read, you guys are finding at least one scholarly source of your choice. I've included here a sample source write-up, which you can look at to see what the heck are we even supposed to do for this source write-up thing. Well, here is a sample of it. Once you write your write-up, you'll be doing some reflective journaling, and you'll need to read Revising by Reading Aloud by one of the big names in my discipline of Rec Comp, Peter Elbow. And of course, we're going to be doing peer review on each other's source write-ups. It's a lot of reading. Not to be outdone, we have quite a few things to write this week. And this is where I was telling you guys that things really build on each other. So first, once you find your scholarly source, you need to do Project Builder 6 first. This is kind of a bare bones, step-by-step record of how you found your scholarly source. You can do this in bullet points. You can definitely include all sorts of small details, from the keywords that you use to what was the name of the database, were you in Google Scholar, what were the first few titles you read but didn't use. All those tiny little steps need to go into Project Builder 6. Then, once you've done Project Builder 6, you'll have a good chunk ready to go for your scholarly source write-up. Now, it's really key to know that Project Builder 6 helps you with your write-up, but you can't copy and paste, because here you need to have some fleshed out paragraphs, and beyond just the step-by-step of how you found the source, you also need to be able to summarize what the source is saying. So once again, while Project Builder 6 will help you with your write-up, you'll want to look really closely at this sample to see exactly what your write-up is supposed to look like. Reflection Journal 6 will be using Revising by Reading Aloud. And then towards the end of the week, you'll want to get working on your shitty first draft of Project 2. So altogether, our week looks like this. By Wednesday, you want to have watched this intro video. You want to be finding at least one, maybe two scholarly sources. And definitely do your Project Builder 6 and get started on your scholarly source write-up. So then by Friday, not only will you want to make sure you watch the MLA review mini lesson, but you'll need to post your scholarly source write-up to the thread that I'll show you in a second and give each other feedback. This should start by Friday so that everyone can get their feedback well in advance of the Sunday deadline. And then the short piece, Revising by Reading Aloud, will help you with Reflection Journal 6, which is called a tuning in journal. You'll see what that means when you get to it. Make sure you put those comments on your classmates' draft between Friday and Saturday so that they can take the comments, so that you can get your comments and revise accordingly as you work to create your entire shitty first draft. When you draft your source write-up, you should post it to the thread that I've created for this purpose. And if you head over here to your Blackboard menu and you go to Project Drafts, you'll see that I've added a new thread, iSearch Source Write-Ups. Now, the protocol for this should feel exactly the same as when you posted your iSearch intros for peer feedback. It's the same process. When you click on the thread, you'll be able to create a thread, which you should title with your name. And you can post any questions or anything you want feedback on and attach your draft. Now, once you get feedback on your source write-up, you'll want to start revising and putting together your shitty first draft of your iSearch. Now, I'm going to go into our iSearch assignment description right here, which, remember, is also the place where you'll go to post your final draft when we get there. And when I open up the assignment description, I just want to go over a few key things that should be in your draft. So we've been working on this inquiry project. We've developed our research questions or set of questions. We've drafted and posted our introductions for feedback. Right now we're working on the body of the paper, which is a story about how you are searching for sources. So here, the body of the essay is a narrative, a story about your search. There's two ways you can go about it. You might begin with the source closest to you, the one that's easiest to access, and move on chronologically through the sources that as you found them. Or if you remember when I asked you to draft your research plan, you might want to go back to it and describe how you followed that plan or how you deviated from it. But here's something that's really key. Your final iSearch paper needs to have 3 relevant secondary sources about your topic. And you need to write up each source the same way. Just as you are going to do your initial source write-up, you'll follow that same protocol for the second 2 sources. Explain how you found the source. So this is where Project Builder 6 comes into play. Step by step. What databases did you go to? Where did you look on the web? What tools did you use? How did you navigate those search tools? Step number 2, summarize the information you found in the source and talk about how it relates to your question. Is it super helpful? Did you need to take some pieces and leave other pieces? Finally, reflect on how that source helps you answer your question. So in the body of your paper, key things to take away, you need at least 3 sources, and this is a narrative of your search. This is not a research paper proper. This is you describing your own research process. We'll get to the traditional research paper when we work on Project 3. The other thing that I want you guys to think about as you're writing up your shitty first drafts is the conclusion. Now, this conclusion could be longer than a single paragraph. It just needs to contain the following 3 things. An explanation or a summary of what you learned through research. So this could be the content. If you want to say, hey, I wondered about how to design and create my own horse-drawn chariot, and I learned how to do that. That's the content of your search, and you should absolutely write about what you learned through the reading that you did. But you should also include what you learned about the research process itself. So this could be anything from learning where to go online, learning how to use university resources, learning what works for you and what doesn't. But you should include both of those. And you should also include a claim about all your conclusions in a nutshell. This is sort of a where should you go from here and what was it all about. Through this project, you have come to understand. You can argue that. And your argument can be anything from the content, like I know how to build a chariot, or it can also be about the research process. I have come to see that the Wayne State University Library has amazing resources that everyone should know how to use. Either way, these 3 elements need to be in your conclusion. The last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about in this week's video is more of a forward-thinking thing about next week. As you can see from our weekly schedule, your shitty first drafts are due Sunday night. And I would like to have shitty first draft conferences with everybody, but it's my practice by the second project to make these conferences optional. Mainly because at this point, now that you've already had a conference with me, you know where my office is, you know how to get a hold of me, and then I will leave it up to you to see how valuable that was for you and whether or not you'd like to pursue that in the following projects. So, having said that, I will be available for Skype conferences Monday and Tuesday in the afternoons, and I'll be in my office for my office hours, and I may be able to squeeze in an additional hour from 11 to 12 as well, depending on demand. So if you guys could let me know when would be most useful for you, if you'd prefer a Skype conference on Monday or Tuesday afternoon, just shoot me an email. If you want to stop by during office hours for a face-to-face conference, that's fine. You don't need to shoot me an email for that. But do let me know if you would like to have a shitty first draft conference and how it would best work for you. Other than that, I think that's all I got for today. We've got a lot of reading to do this week. We've got a lot of writing to do as we start to put all the pieces together for this iSearch project. Please don't hesitate to email me with any questions, and I will see you next week.